Welcome to the Irish Pagan School podcast. Your hosts are authors and co-founders of the Irish Pagan School here in County Waterford, Ireland, Laura O'Brien and Jon O'Sullivan. Fáilte.
What happens to Irish pagans when they die? Well, Dagdi Agus Fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. Jon O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School here. And that is a Kestra question that we have been asked. And interestingly, we do have something in the Irish lore that speaks to an answer. So, ni answer, not hard to say. Irish pagans, when they die, go to a place called Chakdon or Chakdon. Chakdon is the House of Death, the House of Donn. It is a place believed to be between our world and the other world. In fact, there's a rocky island just off the coast of Ireland, which is also known as Chakdon. And what is fascinating about the story behind Chakdon is we have a record of why it is called Chakdon. So I'm going to read to you here an excerpt from a document known as the Metrical Dinhenicus. So the Dinhenicus is this lore of names and places. So we have these large mythological stories or texts documented in the medieval manuscripts, like the Great Book of Lecan, the Yellow Book of Lecan, the Book of Kells, Book of Fermoy, etc. And across all of those different books, there's these kind of short stories or excerpts that say, oh, well, why is this place named this place? And then it goes into the story to explain why. So I'm going to read this one for you here. Chakdon, whence the name? Not hard to say. When the sons of Mill came from the west to Erin, their druid said to them, if one of you climbs the mast, said he, and chants incantations against the two a day, before they can do so, the battle will be broken against them and their land will be ours. And he that casts the spell will die. They cast lots amongst themselves, and the lot falls to Donn to climb the mast. So was it done. Donn climbed the mast and chanted incantations against the two a day, and then came down. And he said, I swear by the gods, quoth he, that now ye will not be granted right nor justice. The two a day also chanted incantations against the sons of Mill, in answer from the land. Then, after they had cursed Donn, there came forthwith an aug into the ship. Said Amergin, Donn will die, said he, and it were not lucky for us to keep the body, lest we catch the disease. For if Donn be brought ashore, the disease will remain in Erin forever. Said Donn, let my body be carried to one of the islands, said he, and my people will lay a blessing on me forever. And through the incantations of the druids, a storm came upon them, and the ship wherein Donn was foundered. Let his body be carried to yonder high rock, said Amergin. His folk shall come to this spot. So hence it is called Chakdon. And for this place, according to the heathen, the souls of sinners visit Chakdon before they go to hell, and give their blessings ere they go to the soul of Donn. But as for the righteous soul of a penitent, it beholds the place from afar, and this is not borne astray. Such at least is the belief of the heathen, hence Chakdon is so called. So there's a lot more to the larger narrative and the stories. This comes from the end of the mythological cycle, where the last invasion of the Book of Invasions, known as Lara Cabala Éireann, is happening. And so the Milesians are this last force to arrive in, this last tribe to come into Ireland, and they take over power through conquest from the Tuatha Dé Danann. And as part of this flow and part of this process, the various sons of Mill, which includes Donn, he is listed as one of the sons of Mill. In this version, he sacrifices himself in some way. In other versions, he's the one Milesian who promises to absolutely genocide all of the people in Ireland, and that's why he is actually struck down. But the last part of this, the referencing to, oh, well, those who are penitent or righteous souls will look at Chakdon from afar. It is because this information was written in manuscripts by medieval monks. But what's fascinating is the top part of it is very clear and concise with the story. And it's only when we get to the end that we have this narrative of souls going to heaven and hell, or this kind of, and even the last line of it, which I really love, is such at least is the belief of the heathen. It's almost like this monk copying it down is covering his ass. Like he has to put enough in there to say, well, of course, righteous holy people won't actually go to Chakdon. but the heathens believe they go to Chakdon. So it's kind of clear that where the bias is in the story or where the bias is in the narrative, but that indicates that there may not be bias in the above elements of the story and the narrative. So there's a lot more to the tale to be considered. Of course, the Dagda, the good god of the Tuatha Dé Danann, is also known as Dagda Donn, one of his epithets. We know from the stories of him taking up the magical club or the staff that he takes on the power of life and death. He has the power to return life to his friends and take life from his enemies. And this then puts him in this role of this secular figure, again, the same way that his harp allows him to turn the seasons and set them in the right order. The club gives him this power to turn life to death and death to life, which is another major cycle for those of us who are mortal in form. But the belief here is that the immortal or the energetic element that is part of the human expression, when we die in this life, there is something that goes beyond here. There is something that exists after the physical form has expired and goes somewhere else. And so, in the mythology of Ireland, when we talk about death in Ireland, those who followed the Irish pagan path go to Chakdon. We go to the House of the Dead. Now, it is not a sepulchre, it's not some kind of mortuary, it's not a mausoleum in some way, shape, or form, because it actually says they stop by in Chakdon to pay their blessings, to give their respects before they go on wherever they're going. And we know from the other mythology and the information, the story of the other world is on sale, Ella, the other life. And so you stop off in Chakdon, you pay your respects, and either you move on into the other world or you follow the cycle of life and death and you come back. Because part of Irish paganism does include transmigration of spirit and the return of the energies or spirits to a new life and a new form here as a mortal. So the answer, not hard to say, I guess. Where do we go, Irish pagan folk? Well, we got to Chakdon, and then either onto the world, or for those of us who have more work to do, we come back and keep doing the work. Hopefully this has been interesting for you. It has been engaging. As I said, I find it very fascinating to consider and to think about these, which is why I did an entire class at the Irish Pagan School on death in Ireland. I looked at historical records of burials in Ireland, right the way back to early hunter-gatherer kind of stuff that we know of, documented burials of Vikings in Ireland, the first Catholic burials in Ireland. But then also we have so much folklore about death rituals, death messengers in Ireland. Everything from the Banshee, of course, very famously known, but there's also the Dullahan, the headless horseman. And then, of course, there is the death coach and people talking about being pursued by either headless horsemen or death coaches in our folklore and our history and our mythology. So if you would like to know more, I'll pop a link down below to the Death in Ireland class. You can go and take that there at the Irish Pagan School. And of course, we have a whole lot of free resources available for you. Pick something up, do the like and subscribe thing if you want to keep on engaging with this. And as ever, look after yourself, take care, and until next time, slán. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a positive review in your podcast listener. Then head over to irishpaganschool.com and enroll in one of our free or paid courses. Slán go fóill, and we will see you next time.